It all started one morning, early before the sun had fully woken up, when the mist still clung to the pasture like it was afraid to leave. I hadn't even had my coffee yet when I pulled up to my front gate and saw it. A bright red plastic tag nailed right into the post. Not stapled, not taped nailed, dead center, precise like they'd been planning this for weeks. I should have known it wasn't just a notification. It was a message, a warning. I reached out and yanked the tag off, folded it in half, then in half again, like it might catch fire if I held it too long. And sure enough, there it was, saw notice of noncompliance. Saw the kind of fine that would make most folks sweat bullets. Unauthorized structure. Fine of due law $27,500. A pretty hefty price for something that was barely bigger than a bench. I already knew what it was about. Not a shed, not a tool rack. No, it was the memorial I built for my brother. Right there on the northern ridge, just over the hill where the wind hits first and the cows don't graze. It wasn't just a bench, it was a place of silence, where my brother's memory could rest, where I could sit and breathe when the world felt too heavy. But to the HOA, it was a saw violation saw. A saw problem saw. I didn't say anything, not even to myself. I just stood there holding that notice, watching the sky change from gray to gold. That's when I heard the two black SUVs rolling up the driveway, quiet but precise. They weren't in a rush. They were certain. Victoria Vance stepped out first, looking just as polished as ever. She wore that same slate gray pantsuit I'd seen her in during the HOA budget meeting. The kind of look that says, "I'm here to handle business and you're not going to like it." She flashed me a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Good morning, Mr. Taylor," she said, all sweetness on the surface but with a venom beneath it. I didn't say a word. I just folded the notice and slipped it into my back pocket. She started in, "We're conducting a preliminary visual inspection of your property. You've been flagged for zoning re-VYEW." I didn't respond, just looked at her. She glanced at the bench, barely blinking. "The structure located at the Northern Ridge VY OLAT's VY Stability Code under Statute 5B. I didn't flinch. "It's not a structure. It's a headstone." Her jaw twitched, but she kept going. "We understand your emotional investment." "No, you don't," I muttered. Behind her, the second SUV opened up. A drone whirred to life and took off, hovering just above my fence line. I took a step forward. "You fly that over my pasture," I said, my voice even. "You better be ready to collect it in pieces." She didn't flinch. "The drone is part of our compliance documentation program," she explained like she was reading from a manual. "We're well within our rights to observe." It wasn't about the rules anymore. It wasn't about some stupid zoning violation. They were building a case to take my land. Slowly, legally, paperwork so thick you could bury a body under it. "You think a drone and a clipboard make you bulletproof?" I asked her, narrowing my eyes. "No," she said, smiling, "but they make us correct." Her assistant started snapping photos, taking coordinates like a soldier marking territory. "Verbal hostility from the resident," she added, scribbling on her clipboard. I couldn't take it anymore. "You think a note's going to protect you when this ends up in court?" Her eyes didn't even flicker. "You have 48 hours to comply, Mr. Taylor. If not, we'll escalate." I didn't respond. I just watched as they got back into their SUVs and rolled off. They were leaving, but the drone stayed, lingering in the air like a dare. I could feel its lens on me. It was only a matter of time before they'd come back to finish the job. The next morning, I walked out past the ridge, the spot where the bench had been. I could see it already how they'd spin it in their meeting. They'd take a photo, label it debris, maybe even unauthorized landscaping. That's how they saw it, just paperwork. A checklist. But to me, it was my brother's resting place. So, that night I did it. Quietly. No music. No talking. Just the sound of stone breaking. I dismantled the whole damn thing, stone by stone, piece by piece. I loaded the slabs into my truck, drove them to the barn, stacked them against the wall. As I stood there, I saw the tracks. Fresh tire lines by the north fence. Boot prints near the irrigation box. Someone had been walking my land. Someone who didn't want to be seen. I followed the tracks to where they disappeared into the brush. Nothing was stolen. Nothing was broken. But something had been measured. And that told me everything. The HOA wasn't just trying to find me. They were trespassing now. They'd already filed their first violation, but now they were watching me. And if they thought a little paperwork would scare me off, they just made the worst tactical mistake of their lives. It didn't start with sirens. It started with whispers, sideways glances, a little too much silence when I walked into a room. I was standing in the feed store a couple of days later, buying mineral blocks, when the kid at the counter suddenly froze. He didn't say a word, didn't even look me in the eye. His hands were shaking when he handed me the receipt. "Something wrong?" I asked. He quickly shoved a flyer under the plexiglass counter, but I saw a flyer with my face on it, caption saw, known individual duel. Subject to HOA enforcement review. Approach with caution. Do not engage. Saw. I didn't say anything. I just grabbed my receipt and walked out. By the time I hit the sidewalk, 3 people had turned their backs on me. Then it went online. Unstable rancher threatens, HOA official. Community on edge after veterans outburst. A doctored photo of me holding a rifle, captioned, "He's got the weapons. We've got the truth." Victoria Vance never posted a word herself. She didn't need to. She let it spread. Let it infect the community. And when I got a text from my niece saying her mom didn't want her to sit until things settled, that's when I knew. It wasn't just a fight over zoning laws. It wasn't about a bench or a barn. It was about taking me down. And if they thought they could destroy me with lies, they had no idea who they were dealing with. Old Cal showed up next. He was a cowboy. The kind of guy who brought beer when things got bad and didn't ask questions when you didn't answer. I stopped by his place, saw him working on his gate. "Hey," I called out, "got time to talk?" He barely acknowledged me, just walked inside. The next day, the deputy showed up. No sirens. No fanfare. Just him pulling into my driveway like a ghost. He didn't get out of the truck at first. When he did, he looked at me like he was already tired of the whole situation. "Just need to check in. Make sure everything's all right up here," he said. "Uneasy about what?" I asked. "Me fixing a fence?" He rubbed the back of his neck. "It's about optics. You walk that perimeter every night. Lights on full blast. You stand on the ridge and stare down at the town." "Yeah," I said, my voice hard. "Is that suspicious?" He didn't answer. He didn't need to. That night, I walked the perimeter again, just to let them see me do it. Let them feel uneasy. Let them wonder if I was counting steps. When I stood at the ridge, watching the valley, I saw the porch lights flicker one by one. They were watching me, waiting for me to make a mistake. They wanted a monster. Fine. But the thing about monsters is, once they come out of hiding, they don't go back in. They had made me the enemy, but now, I was rewriting the story. I wasn't going to fight them with fists or guns. I was going to bury them in paperwork. I found my father's old filing cabinet in the barn. It hadn't been touched in years, but when I opened it, there it was, everything I needed. Old maps, deeds, and a note from my father written in 1997 that said, "Watch the easement. It's the crack they'll crawl through." My father had seen it coming. I spent the next few days digging through public filings, reading zoning laws, and putting everything together. Parcel 18 BC, an unrecorded transfer. That's where they were squatting. They'd paved it, built a garden, installed cameras on land that was still in limbo. I had everything I needed, and I wasn't going to stop until I exposed the whole damn system. I didn't fight with anger. I fought with facts. And when I walked into the HOA meeting with all the EVY denke, the room fell silent. I laid it all out, every violation, every shady deal, and there, at the end, was Victoria's name on the memo that started it all. She tried to cover it up. She tried to laugh it off, but the truth was undeniable. And in that room, for the first time, she wasn't the one in control. They thought they'd take my land. But in the end, they lost everything. The HOA dissolved. The board members resigned. And Victoria? She was left with nothing but her own lies. So, let me ask you, how far would you go to protect what's yours? What would you do if a system meant to protect you turned on you? Let me know in the comments. Because sometimes, standing up for what's right isn't about fists. It's about fighting with what you know. And when you know the rules better than they do, that's when you win.